Welcome to Class 5 Terra. The ship's landing thrusters hissed as the doors opened, revealing the soft yellow walls of New Dawn Primary School. The Galactic Education Exchange pod had arrived, and inside it stood 5 carefully selected juvenile representatives from the Allied Civilizations Accord, ready to integrate into Earth's education system. "I do not trust this world," muttered Cithern, his 4 eye stalks rotating nervously. "The gravity is too strong. The oxygen content is unstable. And the children are allowed." "They're not that bad," said Zalari, leaves on her shoulders fluttering as she absorbed the ambient sunlight. "Besides, it's a peaceful species now. The humans signed the Sentient Accord, remember?" "Barely," said Vakari, his crystalline joints clicking, "and only after detonating an antimatter warhead during a peace negotiation. Let's just observe and report." The school's interior was colorful and chaotic. Paper crafts hung from the ceiling. Walls were covered in vibrant drawings. Screams of laughter echoed down the hallway, punctuated by thuds, crashes, and what sounded suspiciously like battle cries. "Are those war chants?" asked Murin, the gaseous being trailing in an enviro container above them. His translucent form shimmered nervously. "No, children are simply expressive," said Andari, the telepath, already massaging his forehead. "Though I will admit, their mental noise is disorienting." The door to Class 5 Terra opened with a friendly chime. A woman stood at the front, Ms. Ramirez, their teacher, wearing a cardigan decorated with cartoon cats. Her smile was disarmingly warm. "Welcome, new friends," she said brightly. "Class, these are our alien exchange students. Let's give them a big Earth hello." A chorus of cheers erupted. Several human children leapt from their chairs, waving, clapping, and, inexplicably, making explosion noises with their mouths. The aliens hesitated, unsure whether to wave back or raise shields. Over the next hour, the aliens sat stiffly at their assigned seats, while Ms. Ramirez taught a lesson on fractions. Human children appeared mostly inattentive, passing notes, drawing on their desks, or attempting to stack pencils vertically in increasingly dangerous configurations. And yet, when Ms. Ramirez called on them, each human responded quickly, with confidence and strange metaphors. Vakari noted with unease that even the smallest humans showed remarkable improvisation and spatial awareness. At 10:15, the wall bell rang. The classroom transformed. Books slammed shut. Children stood as one. Backpacks were tossed. Voices soared. "Okay, everyone," Ms. Ramirez called cheerfully. "Recess time. 30 minutes outside. Be safe, play fair." Recess? The aliens had read about this. A designated break in a learning schedule for juvenile humans to engage in unstructured socialization. An opportunity for species bonding, motor skill development, and psychological decompression. They were wrong. As the classroom emptied, the alien students hesitated at the door, staring out into the yard. It was massive. Dirt, asphalt, climbing structures, grass, and tubes. Hundreds of human children were already outside, yelling, running, jumping, throwing, chasing. A group was engaged in something called king ball on the far court. Another mob clustered around the jungle gym, where 2 boys were having a mock sword duel with sticks. Somewhere in the background, a chant had begun. "Slide zone, slide zone." The 5 alien students stepped cautiously into the arena. "This seems more intense than described," murmured Zalari. The moment they crossed the threshold, a rubber ball flew past Vakari's head with enough force to crack his left shoulder facet. He stumbled back. "Was that a projectile?" gasped Murin. "Affirmative," replied Cithern. "And that child just declared dominion over the sandbox." "Wait, are they forming tribal hierarchies?" Endari asked. They scattered, attempting to blend in. A human girl grabbed Zalari's hand and screamed, "You're on our team now," before dragging her toward the king ball court. "Team? What sides? Where are the stakes?" Zalari called out. Vakari crouched behind a bench, observing. Tactical maneuvers were everywhere. Flanking routes, diversions, feints. Children used monkey bars as elevated sniper points. Others dug trenches in the sandbox, all without adult supervision. The aliens regrouped near a slide. "They're training," Valkyrie said, voice shaking. "Not playing. This is military conditioning disguised as recreation." Murin blinked twice. "But why?" "They're only juveniles." Sithern turned slowly to face them. "Because they're Deathworlders. And this is how they prepare." The recess bell rang again. The children immediately dropped everything and began casually walking back toward the building, laughing, comparing scores, and trading snacks. Ms. Ramirez smiled at the group as they re-entered. "Did everyone have fun?" The 5 alien students said nothing. They stared at her, at the room, and finally at the grinning humans around them. Andari whispered the first words any of them had spoken since recess began. "We are not prepared. Recess, war zone of the innocents." The next day, the alien students arrived to class early. Not to socialize, not to study, but to prepare. "I have mapped the terrain," Valkyrie whispered, sliding a rudimentary map across the table, drawn in perfect crystalline lines. "Slide zone controls the high ground. The jungle gym is heavily contested. The king ball court is a kill box." "And the humans?" asked Andari, rubbing his temples as if still reeling from yesterday's mental exposure. "They operate in loosely defined tribes. Alliances shift without warning. Betrayals are common," Valkyrie said grimly. Sithern crossed 2 limbs over his chest. "This is a moral crisis. Children of a sentient species should not be subjected to near-constant low-level warfare. It's a miracle they survive. I believe that is the point," Murin replied quietly from his floating canister. "Selection pressure. Adapt or be overrun." Zalari, seated beside a potted plant for comfort, looked around nervously. "Should we request evacuation? Or at least an armed observer?" "Too late," said Valkyrie. "They're already integrating us into the system. Yesterday, I was labeled Glass Man. I don't know what it means, but 3 humans saluted me afterward." The bell rang. Recess. This time they were ready, or so they believed. The playground exploded in emotion once again. Human children sprinted toward preferred zones. Some climbed monkey bars like tactical mountaineers. Others took positions behind benches, kicking off negotiations, trades, and territorial disputes with shocking efficiency. The aliens split up to observe individually. Zalari attempted a peaceful approach, joining a small group near the sandbox. "Hi," she said brightly. "I would like to participate in this." "Get her. She's with Slide Zone." 3 children tackled her into the sand. Zalari vanished beneath a pile of laughing humans, all shouting made-up battle cries. She crawled free, covered in granules, her photosynthetic skin dulled. "They're smiling while attacking," she gasped. Murin floated near the fence, staying out of range. Or so he thought. "Whoa, cool drone." A boy with dirt-streaked arms hurled a jump rope toward him. It wrapped around Murin's containment canister, pulling him briefly to the ground. "I'm not a drone," Murin sputtered, spinning his fans in panic. "Okay, drone," the boy said, grinning. "You're on recon duty now." He saluted and ran off, leaving Murin twitching. Sithern remained frozen near the tetherball pole, carefully calculating probable injury vectors. A group of humans nearby played what appeared to be a rapid contact dodge game. He narrowed his eyes. "They are intentionally increasing kinetic impact to induce fear resistance," he muttered. "This is worse than I imagined." A ball bounced off his shoulder with a thwack. "You're out, man," someone yelled cheerfully. Sithern stared down at the red mark forming on his arm. "Is this how they bond?" Andari attempted a mental probe to understand the underlying structure. What he encountered overwhelmed him. A hurricane of images, flashes of movement, adrenaline spikes, tribal chants, names like Slide Lord and King Ball Kaiser. Every mind, even the smallest, was engaged in some form of tactical calculation. Not one of them was passive. "I can't isolate a single leader," he whispered to himself. "They operate as decentralized nodes, pure swarm logic." Valkyrie, meanwhile, observed the central conflict, King Ball, a game that seemed to mix dodgeball, wrestling, and abstract domination rituals. Human children hurled balls at each other with wild force, but also purpose. One child gave hand signals. Another set a trap, feigning injury before tagging out a rival. Alliances formed and dissolved within seconds. Valkyrie took cover behind a tire wall. He scribbled furious notes on a datapad. This is warfare simulation. Every component is here. Ambushes, terrain usage, morale management. They're training themselves in combat by accident. A shadow fell over him. A tall human child with freckles and a bandana stood there, grinning. You're the glass man, right? You want in? Valkyrie blinked. In what? The slide zone needs intel. You got eyes. You're smart. Be our spy. We'll trade you freeze pops after. Before he could reply, the child was gone. The bell rang. The battlefield froze. Children dropped whatever they were doing and lined up to return inside, as if nothing had happened. Zalari limped over, leaves torn. Murin's canister was slightly dented. Andari looked pale. Sithern clutched his notes like a holy book. Valkyrie watched the humans walking casually into the building, laughing and jostling one another. I have seen soldiers with less coordination, he murmured. Back in the classroom, Ms. Ramirez handed out worksheets. Hope you had fun at recess, everyone. We'll be doing spelling next. The alien delegation sat in silence. No one spoke until Murin whispered, They do this every day? Yes, Valkyrie said, still staring out the window. Andari slowly turned his head. This is not a learning institution. It is a military academy in disguise. Sithern added grimly, and their generals were sneakers, studying the Deathworlders. The aliens no longer viewed recess as leisure. It was now the mission. They met early before class in the utility alcove near the art supply closet, which they had converted into a secure debriefing zone. Valkyrie projected a tactical layout of the playground in glowing blue light across the wall, while Murin hovered above, running atmospheric analysis. Wind speed varies by quadrant. The kingball court is exposed. The slide zone, however, has favorable cover, Murin said calmly. Why are children interested in territorial control at all? Zalari asked, nervously adjusting a leaf that had been bent in yesterday's ambush. Because it's instinct, Andari replied, eyes distant. Their minds pulse with challenge-seeking behavior. Social competition, dominance, signaling. They crave adversity. It fuels them. Then we must adapt, Valkyrie said with crystalline resolve. Observe, analyze, integrate. Sithern let out a slow, heavy breath through his vents. We came here to study Terran education, not become soldiers. No, we came here to survive, Valkyrie corrected, which, on this planet, appears to be the same thing. During class, they watched the human children more closely. It wasn't just during recess. The signs were everywhere. A girl stealthily passed a note to a boy 3 desks away, perfectly timed while the teacher's back was turned. A boy used a paperclip, a pencil, and a rubber band to build a makeshift launcher. Another child mapped out a complex system of bartering using trading cards and snacks. He was referred to only as the broker. They're always strategizing, Andari whispered, even under surveillance. At lunch, the aliens sat together at the far end of the cafeteria. Valkyrie pulled up their preliminary report on his datapad. The title read, Subject, Homo sapiens, Terran juvenile subgroup. Observation, structured chaos and tactical play as developmental norms. Preliminary conclusion, this is not recess. This is a simulation. Zalari leaned over the screen. Are we sure we want to transmit this to our home worlds? If the Council sees this, they'll classify Earth as hostile. I've already encrypted it and sent it via low-band relay, Valkyrie replied. You didn't even wait for peer review? Sithern snapped. There wasn't time. The broker just traded 3 pudding cups for field intelligence. They're escalating. That afternoon, a human child named Emma approached the group. She was 9 years old, wore glittery sneakers, and had the confidence of a field commander. She pointed at the aliens. You guys, you're weird, but like, cool weird. The aliens stared at her, unsure how to respond. Glass man, lizard leaf, drone guy, floating eyeballs, and Mr. Quiet, she said, pointing to each in turn. You want to be on our team tomorrow? We're taking back slide zone from the monkey bar mutants. What would that entail? Endari asked cautiously. We'll teach you. Don't worry. Just show up at the big tree by the fence. We've got a plan. She skipped off, humming. I believe we have been recruited, Murin said. This may be our opportunity to learn from within, Valkyrie muttered. Deep insertion. Full cultural immersion. Are we seriously going along with this? Sithern asked. We're here to observe, not to join their simulated tribal warfare. Zalari smiled faintly. I don't think it's just war to them. It's how they bond. And how they grow, Endari added. Through struggle. Through conflict. Through play. This is how they teach resilience. Later that night, the aliens met again in secret. This time, it wasn't just to analyze. It was to prepare. They rewound footage from the recess security cams, mapping patrol routes and choke points. Valkyrie practiced human movement patterns, mimicking a crouch behind a bench and a forward roll. Murin modified his containment shell to emit a faint vapor trail, perfect for visual distraction. Endari developed hand signals based on the children's own gestures, refining them into a silent comm system. Zalari grew a secondary set of vines for rapid grip movement. Even Sithern, though reluctantly, created a probability matrix for dodgeball trajectories. By the end of the session, they stood together, not just as observers, but as a unit. The next morning, Emma grinned when she saw them at the tree. You came. Awesome. All right, codename Leaf, take the left flank. Glass man with me. Drone guy, hover above and give us a heads up if the monkey bar kids mobilize. Quiet eyes, keep your weird math stuff going. Let's own this. Are there rules? Zalari asked. Yeah, win. She pointed dramatically toward the slide zone. Let's move. As they followed her, Valkyrie looked around at the cheering, running, fighting mass of children. For the first time, he didn't feel terrified. He felt ready. The battle of Slide Zone. The air was thick with anticipation. Recess had begun. The alien delegation, now field operational members of Team Emma, assembled beneath the rusted metal slide at the edge of the playground's disputed territory, Slide Zone. Opposite them, a ragtag band of human children crowded near the monkey bars. Their leader, a tall boy with a red hoodie and a paper crown, pointed dramatically with a stick sword. Team Slide Zone is ours. Again, he bellowed. Emma narrowed her eyes. Not today, Kenny. Valkyrie raised an arm. We are ready. Positions, Emma ordered. The aliens sprang into motion. Zalari slithered into a trench behind the sand pit, her vines outstretched like tripwires. Nearby, two small kids with water balloons crouched at the ready. Zalari whispered, wait until they step forward, then splash the flanks. The children nodded solemnly. Sithern took up position behind the climbing wall, consulting a notepad filled with trajectory data. He squinted, watching the enemy advance. A group of Kenny's followers charged forward with foam bats. Now, Sithern called. A volley of dodgeballs launched from a seesaw-assisted catapult, an improvised contraption built by the broker in exchange for chocolate milk futures. The balls arced perfectly, 3 direct hits. Kinetic deterrence successful, Sithern muttered. Murin floated overhead, broadcasting in a calm voice from a speaker in his containment pod. Enemy forces regrouping behind the tetherball post. Numbers reduced. Confidence high. Caution advised. Endari crouched behind the tire stack, fingers pressed to his temples. His psychic sensitivity was overwhelmed by the noise, but he found focus in the chaos. He broadcast a mental whisper to Valkyrie. Now, go! Valkyrie, now wearing a cardboard visor labeled Glass Man, burst from cover. He charged across the open field, dodging rubber balls and foam missiles with surprising agility. His crystalline legs shimmered in the sun. Children from both sides paused to gape. He's glowing, someone muttered. Emma ran beside him, swinging a pool noodle like a blade. Push left. Take the mound. They reached the hill at the base of the slide. A brief scuffle followed. Nothing injurious, just shouting and flailing and someone getting sprayed with silly string. And then, they stood victorious atop the mound. The slide zone was theirs. Kenny dropped his foam sword. Okay, fine. Rematch tomorrow. No rematch, Emma said. This is neutral ground now. Open to everyone. Kenny considered, then shrugged. Deal. Your team's pretty good. especially the shiny guy. Valkyrie blinked, not quite sure if it was an insult or a compliment. Emma turned to the aliens, panting. We did it. Nice moves, Leaf. Solid assists, drone guy. Quiet eyes, you were like mine ninja. We were effective, Mirren said, his canister venting a please hiss. Sithern checked his data. Minimal casualties. Controlled chaos. Impressive. Zalari wiped sand from her leaves. They fought hard. But it also had fun. Emma grinned. Of course we did. That's the whole point. The bell rang. As usual, the chaos dissolved instantly. Kids dusted themselves off, high-fived, and lined up calmly by the classroom door. Bruises were minor. Spirits were high. The aliens walked in silence, their minds still catching up with what had happened. Inside, Ms. Ramirez was writing on the whiteboard. Spelling quiz in 5 minutes, she called cheerfully. The aliens sat at their table. No one spoke for a long moment. Finally, Valkyrie cleared his throat. I believe we have misunderstood these humans. Sithern tilted his head. Explain. They do not train for war through play. They prepare for life through struggle. Conflict sharpens them, but not to destroy. To connect. To learn. To lead. Zalari added softly. They don't just endure chaos. They grow in it. Mirren emitted a warm tone. Adaptation through unpredictability. A brilliant developmental strategy. Endari smiled faintly. Even their recess is a lesson. They turned toward the other students, now passing around crayons, jokes, and trading cards. There were no lasting rivalries. No grudges. Just friendship born through shared challenge. Emma looked back and gave him a thumbs up. Sithern, after a long pause, returned the gesture. Perhaps Earth is not a death world after all. Valkyrie nodded. No, it is a life world, just one that happens to teach its children how to fight through joy. And for the first time since landing on Earth, all 5 alien students allowed themselves to relax. Even during spelling,